Good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be here. Just before we begin, I'd just like to pay my respects and acknowledge the traditional custodians of land in which I'm presenting from today, the Daruk people, uh, who were the traditional custodians of the Windsor-Richmond area. I acknowledge their um, connections to land, water, and air, past, present, and future, and recognize leaders past, present, and emerging. So just to begin, my name is James McCarthy. I'm from One Giant Leap, Australia. I am business director and science advisory. Presenting with me today is Jenna. She is also director and educational director and outreach for the company. And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about the company itself, the foundation, and a few of the programs that we run. So a little bit about One Giant Leap. One Giant Leap Australia was founded in 2015, officially 2015, by Jackie and Robert Carpenter. The company itself, kind of not in name, started before that though, in about 2008, 2009, when Jackie got a scholarship to to go to space camp in the USA, which was a life-changing experience for her, and she won pretty fantastic award. She tells a story about it, and I can't do it justice, so I won't try. But she got something called the Right Stuff Award. Someone who puts themselves out there, who really like digs into the experience, puts like really takes in everything, interacts with people, shows awesome leadership, everything like that. And the Right Stuff Award actually allows a scholarship to bring another teacher and a student from wherever you are back to space camp. So Jenna took that, and instead of going, well, it's kind of useless for me to take one student, I'll use the scholarship money and use it as seed money to do a big fundraising event. And she ended up taking like a whole class of students to space camp. And that was kind of the genesis of Jackie getting into the space STEM area, because she'd been a teacher for many years. But this was her foray into STEM officially and space officially. So as the years went on, Jackie made bigger and bigger groups going to space camp in the US, taking not just students, but also, carers of some of those students, some of them who needed special help. And then also in the end, parents who had that child dream of, I always wanted to go to space camp when I was a kid, and I never got to. And she actually started taking parents across, because there is actually an adults program for space camp, which is fantastic. And so the students could go, but some of their parents could go, and they never really had to interact because it's separate. But people got really excited about that, and Jackie kind of discovered the idea of, it's really important to give students amazing, unique experiences that they can attach emotion to. If you don't care about what you're studying, if you don't care about a field or something like that, you're not going to take very much away from those experiences. You're not going to want to study that. If you do study it, not going to retain as much of that information, because there's no emotional attachment to it. So it really became one of the driving forces behind what she would later do. Pre-pandemic, she kind of realized, why are we only taking kids to another country, right? Why don't we do more of this domestically? And there were a few programs in Australia at that time, kind of doing space and STEM related things, but not very much. So Jackie said, there's a niche for me. Let's do some kind of like space STEM education more centered on Australia. So One Giant Leap was founded in 2015 by Jackie and Bob, and they started that. So Jackie was a teacher. Robert was an airman in the Royal Air Force, flying the Hercules, and he's a great engineer. So he also loved STEM and loved teaching students about aerodynamics, aerospace, engineering, all that. So it was a perfect match. Um, and again, as I said, one of the core things that they both kind of struck on was making sure that these students have unique experiences, not about pumping through 100, 200, 500, 1,000 students in like a day session, but really kind of having a small group of students, 20 or 30, and giving them a really like intense, personalized experience with the science, with the education, so that they would walk away knowing that they had accomplished something, knowing that they had had a good experience and retained more than information. And from that came some of the programs that I'm not going to go into so much here, but some of our pros like the Gadget Girls program, the Student Ambassador program that we run, which has students helping students, so peerage tutelage, and then again the Gadget Girls program, which is young women teaching other young women, creating a good personalized experience and promoting women in STEM and the aerospace space. So obviously we run a variety of programs, kind of a smorgasbord is kind of how I would put it. We don't necessarily focus on one specific area. Depending on the program we're doing, the audience we're talking to, and the age range as well, we try to give them a kind of dynamic kind of range of activities that, because not every student's going to be into everything. If you run an engineering course, yes, you will have some self-selection of students who are interested in engineering, but then you're going to have a lot of other students who maybe are on the periphery or not even. So we try to give a really good kind of like gamut of experiences for the students so they can kind of pick and choose what excites them, what makes them passionate. And that was one of the cool things that brought me on board specifically. I'm not a teacher. That is not my background. My background is science. It's medical microbiology, immunology, virology, pathology, histology, pharmacology. So much more on the definitely the chemistry and biology side. But I love all sciences. I love mathematics and physics, even though I'm not as good at them. I still enjoy them. And space, again, is something that's very inspiring. So I started volunteering with the company a few years ago, and I really liked what they were doing, and I have since moved full-time into the company. Jenna is a teacher, has a teacher background, high school, and she also moved into the company a few years ago, working with Jackie and Bob to deliver some of the programs we're going to talk about. Jenna, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think you summed up Jackie's kind of like inspirational journey about teaching students about STEM and space and all that kind of great stuff. Yeah, with my teaching background again, yeah, I jumped onto the company because it's great working in a classroom. I love my class. I think about them all the time, but working with One Giant Leap, it's more about the impact you can make with such a variety of students. And then you can still, and you can connect students with other students and give them even more experiences. While at a school, sometimes you get a bit tied down with the treadmill of school. Any teachers who know that, it's kind of like grinding one day to another to get to the end of the year. But with this, it's I get a chance to really enjoy the teaching experience. And then getting to see such a variety of students from all over Australia and even from overseas as well. But yeah, I think that's. I'm happy to move on to our JAXA programs, James.
Yeah, sure. Let's go into it. Let's jump straight in. So before we move into our camp or academy programs, we don't just run those, and we don't just run our own programs. We also run programs in conjunction with the Australian Space Agency and the Japanese Space Agency. So this is one of the programs that we help run in Australia. It's called the Kibo Robot Programming Challenge. So Kibo, the Kibo module, Japanese module of the International Space Station, most of you probably know, is the most advanced laboratory on the ISS. One of the last major modules that was, installed on there, but it's got fantastic hardware. Some of the stuff that ELF is doing is unbelievable, like stuff that we cannot do on Earth. We require microgravity to do it. So Kibo Robot Programming Challenge is kind of a continuation of a previous microgravity programming challenge that was done by NASA. Where teams of students basically learn how to code and program robots on the International Space Station to maneuver and move around in microgravity. Students are given a set of scenarios. The scenario changes year to year, and students have to program their robot to move from different locations, perform certain tasks by either doing something, by making a maneuver, by scanning something. and then the code itself is then simulated by JAXA. They score that, and the teams who are deemed to get the best scores in whatever schooling tier they are, then move on to the final round where their simulations are actually performed live on the ISS, and it's really, really cool. So this is a free challenge. Most of the stuff we do, we try to make as free as possible. One Giant Leap is a nonprofit foundation, and so one of the key things we want to do is try to minimize any financial impact we have on the students themselves. So we do that either through grant funding, from government, from community organizations, funding from private institutions, universities, sponsorships from private companies, anything that we can do to try to take out the financial hurdle for a lot of these students, because we don't want brilliant minds to be knocked back just because their parents have to decide, well, do I do this thing for my child, or do I put food on the table for the next week? So again, this is a free challenge, yearly challenge. The Australian team the team from Australia, Dream Rover, they've gotten through to the final round in their age bracket, which is fantastic. And yeah, they're going to watch their program be performed. Oh, someone talking. We're going to watch their simulation done on the International Space Station. Not live, unfortunately. We tried to organize that, but they're going to be a little. They had school, so they didn't want to get in the way of exams. But this is a really cool thing because the students get to learn. Sorry, I think it's EB listener. So there we go. Sorry about that. So this is, again, a really cool challenge because the students get to, again, learn coding, learn robotics, but in such a unique environment. Usually we're doing this on the ground, we're doing on mats. We've done it at some of our programs, teaching students basic robots and programming. And it's such a unique environment to be able to do it in microgravity. That's, again, one of the cool things about this, is such a unique experience. And students really are challenged by this. We have some classes, some university students do really poorly in this because they've never even imagined doing something like this in microgravity, and suddenly they're presented with this. But we also help teams who might be struggling a bit. We help match them up with mentors that will help them teach them basics about programming and about overcoming some of the hurdles that are, happen when you're doing something in microgravity. You have to worry about all those different shifts that you don't get under normal gravity circumstances. So yeah, applications for this year are closed, but there will be, applications beginning of February for the next round. Yeah, Jenna, is there anything else you want to add to that?
I think that's about it. So it's open. It'll open for next year. The scenario is unknown until next year, so we can't. But again, it's different every year, based on real scenarios that have happened. So again, it's not like a fictional thing that they've made up for like the like try and solve this. It's like, no, there was an air leak on the ISS, and we need to figure out. And astronauts had to figure that out, but they went. Be better if we coded a robot to look at these, so then it minimizes that human issue where if they just tell the robot to do it, that's the robot's job, and then the human can go and focus on something else. So it's like progressing, again, more space technology. With that,
I think that's an important thing that you hit on, Jenna, is that this isn't like oh, aliens have invaded the ISS, what do you do? It's like, no, there's an air leak. No, there's something going wrong. The whole purpose of this is, we want to implement more autonomous robots on the International Space Station, and this is kind of our steps towards doing that. Not just teaching the robots how to do it, but we have to teach the programmers how we're going to program the robots, and then how to program them in this microgravity environment, which is so alien to, again, most computer engineers. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. Oh, the little orb, the little spherical robot. It's called B-Bot. What is that?
No, this little orb, bro. I know there's a little orb shaped one. Oh my gosh.
That's a camera.
Yeah, I can't remember its name, but yeah, and it uses air vents to like move around.
But they're going to probably be implementing that in future Kibo missions. They've talked about that. So
Int
usually it's
ball.
just the one robot, but they're gonna int ball, intelligence ball. So they're going to probably implement two robots, which will be even more dynamic. Very exciting. Okay, moving on to the next one. So I don't want to be bogged down. I can talk about these programs for a long time, but I'm going to try to not be as garrulous as I usually am. So moving into another program we run with JAXA is the Asian Try Zero G program. Again, also free for students. Whereas Kibo is done in groups, Asian Try Zero G can be done in groups or individually. So Asian Try Zero G, the experiments that the students come up with, they either come up with a novel experiment to be performed in microgravity, or they can also come up with an exercise to be performed by the astronauts. So there's a physiological health aspect to it, but then also a novel experiment aspect to it. Students get given lists of things that are on the ISS, or they can also make their own rigs, their own experiments to be sent to JAXA and actually launched to the International Space Station. And this again, such an amazing experience that like most people don't even think like a class full of students could be able to have, their experiment performed by astronauts on the International Space Station, but you can with this. So in here we have Shingo. We had a Australian student get through to the finals last year. This is Shingo from the Australian National University, and he was involved in an experiment. His experiment involved like axis of movement in microgravity. He's an aerospace engineer, and so he works a lot on satellites. Well, he's a student, but that's what he wants to do. And so his experiment was about how do three-dimensional objects, how do they invert on their different axes of movement as they're moving through and spinning through microgravity environments. Some of you might have probably heard of something called the Jenna McCarthy effect, or like the tennis racket effect, where you take something kind of flat, but it has three dimensions of space, and you flip it, and it kind of like it flips one way, but then it also kind of like flips that way as well. So his experiment was a play on the Jenna McCarthy effect, which is really cool, working in those three-dimensional axes, and observing in real time how different shaped objects invert their axis of movement as they're spinning. Very, very cool thing. So it's really cool to have him do it. He wrote a report on it, reported to JAXA, and he's been very cool with that. We took him to Japan for that. So we got to watch his experiment be done live at JAXA Ground Control on the ISS, which was very fun. And again, this is free, completely free for students, completely free to sign up. The next round of Asian Try Zero G hasn't been officially announced yet, but we're talking with JAXA in the background, and their official announcement is probably going to come out in kind of late September, maybe into October. And probably, although I can't officially say anything, the actual application round will likely open up in November for students to apply. And there have been fantastic experiments involving fluid dynamics, again, the three-dimensional axis shifts of objects, magnetism, electronics, really, really cool experiments. It's really inspiring to see all the different groups, because this is an international competition as well. So there's kids from, but only in the kind of like Asia Pacific region. So Australia is very, very kind of like privileged to be a part of that. But kids from Sri Lanka, kids from Taiwan, kids from Thailand, kids from Japan, obviously, coming up with really, really amazing ideas. And students from Australia, you like participate in this and get to see their experiments done. So it's fantastic, but we want more students. Always want more students. Jenna, is there anything else I missed?
I think my favorite, so for Asian Try Zero G, overall, I think there were over 300 experiments proposed globally, and they had to choose 20. So it was like a really tricky, narrowing down list. And I remember one, because you get to see like kind of the top 50, and then the JAXA Secretariat chooses like the final ones. But it's interesting to see like what other countries come up with. And there was like one student who was proposed maracas, and sending maracas to space. And so, and I always bring it up because people always forget about art and music. And the fact it was a finalist made me go, I want to know what maracas look like, sound like, how the particles move in the shaker. So it's always, no one thought of it. And so it was like an interesting kind of concept to like I don't know, understand. It didn't get through the finals, unfortunately. But I hope this year there's a student who goes like, I want to, what would it be like to send this instrument up or this kind of thing up? Because you never know until it's performed or it's done. So yeah, no, it's a fun like proposal.
There's a guitar and I think a ukulele on the ISS, and they do work. The tension that does work, but apparently it does sound different than when you're on Earth. Now, whether that's the acoustics of being in the modules of the ISS, or maybe it's something to do with the actual strings, how they reverberate, who knows? But that's an awesome experiment. There's so many cool experiments. A couple of things that we don't have slides here, that'll just briefly mention though is we've also done our space waddle program where we sent seeds to the ISS. We sent them up there for 6 months, brought them back down, and students, we sent those seeds out to students in schools all over Australia, so students could take part in kind of our own experiment that One Giant was running about sustainability of managing seeds long term, not just for storage and secure, because more so now than ever, we want to make sure that stockpiles of seeds and biological flora fauna are kept in a safe environment in case something happens to the Earth, whether through climate change or some other catastrophe. And so looking at the viability of long-term storage in orbit is something that we've been investigating. And also, obviously, taking these seeds to an Alfred colony, whether it's on the moon or later to Mars or something like that, is something that we're experimenting with and something we're interested in. I don't want to take too much time for that. I just want to mention that we do a lot of science, not just teaching it. Next slide, Jenna, is that okay? Okay, so Global Space Challenge. Global Space Challenge and Space Teams Academy is a program we run with former astronaut Dr. Greg Chamatov out of Texas A&M. So he actually, in a surprising coincidence, he actually brought up the Kibo module and actually is the one who oversaw its installation with the Japanese astronaut. And he lived up there with it for 6 months. So that's just a fun kind of twist of fate. But Global Space Challenge is another global competition that we help run. This one is not super, it's not free for students, but we try as much as possible to make sure that students who sign up for it are given good support to get grants or get applications subsidized. The software involved is pretty high fidelity simulation software developed by Greg and his team out of Texas A&M. And it's not just him and his team. It's not just current students. It's also former students who now work at NASA JPL and NASA and Axiom and a whole bunch of other companies who still help him develop this. Not just for the students, but also for NASA now itself. NASA is using the kind of like professional version of his software to train future astronauts. So this is really cool to get students on a kind of pared down version of it to get them to design a space mission. I don't want to go into too many specifics here, but these are week-long programs running anywhere from 5 to 6 days. We just did one at Western Sydney University, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But this Global Space Challenge is happening at the beginning of October. So last year we had teams from Israel, Ukraine, Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, China, Japan, South Africa, all around the world, Papua New Guinea, all around the world, competing against domestic teams and international teams in their age bracket to come up with the best designs for spaceships and the best orbital trajectories for their spacecraft to move around from Earth to their exoplanet. And it's really fun. They get to come up with these missions, work together, work cooperatively, but also they get to learn from actual scientists in the field at the cutting edge of research. So people who are currently working with NASA and other space companies to develop rocket engines or different novel engineering programs, but also kind of more the humanities side with like nutrition experts, talking about how we're going to live sustainably, how we're going to live healthily off of the earth. And students get a really, really, I think, broad range of viewpoints, which is very important. Not just STEM and STEAM itself is important, but making sure children understand that space is a broad, diverse ecosystem of occupations and specialities that all work together. Kind of the old saying of about 400,000 people were involved in the Apollo missions and getting humanity on the moon. It's no different today. In fact, if anything, it's even more diverse and more broad. We have arguably millions of people involved in the space industry, all working together, all working in the kind of separate areas, but with the shared goal of getting humanity out to the stars. So Global Space Challenge, again, is a fantastic program in my mind to open up students' minds to what space really is. It's not just rocket scientists and astronauts. It's literally just anything you can think of. There is a mirrored version of that in the space industry. Jenna, anything you want to add to that?
So just on the I'm looking on the school teacher, my school teacher glasses on. So this is the kind of program that if you're not really confident about space as well, it's okay because there's heaps of support behind it. There's like help desks, and they have like a morning like a morning check-in kind of thing, and you can go in and ask questions and that kind of thing. And then there's speakers every day and that kind of stuff. It's conveniently really good for Australia time. It's 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. So it means that you've kind of got a bit of the afternoon to have the students play more. Because
I don't know how Jackie twisted Greg's arm to make sure that it was Australian time, but I'm thankful she did.
Yeah, so
because everyone else is waking up at like midnight to do it.
Yeah. But it also means that because the YouTube ones, the videos that are there are live. But it means that so for example, if the Egyptians, they're like, okay, like they've got to wake up a bit earlier, that kind of thing. But it means that when we're asleep, other people are working. So students wake up and they go, we're not first anymore, because there's like a leaderboard, there's like, you're looking at scores, you're looking at names, you're like, who is this person? Where are they from? And so it's that kind of like friendly competition to see like, can we improve this? Can we make this better? And this is the one that will be running in Toowoomba. So we'll have 32 students coming along to Toowoomba to compete globally. But this is the kind of thing that can be done in a computer lab in a classroom. And you can just have a projector set up for students to watch, and then you just monitor them for the couple of hours and then they go home. So it's I feel like it's a really good gateway for some students to really get into like the kind of things that space is about. And again, the gamification kind of makes it a bit like really kind of engaging, and they talk to their peers
more digestible for students as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
And also again, as Jenna said, we're running in Toowoomba, and the students that are coming to Toowoomba, One Giant Leap is sponsoring those students, so they don't have to pay any entry fees or anything like that. Because again, it comes back to what we're trying to do is try to remove as many financial barriers as possible for the students who want to take part in these programs. All right, we'll move on to the next one. And there is still time to sign up for that because that's not until October. Okay, kind of in that vein. So we don't just do it when it's once a year. In October, we run this program all throughout the year at different universities and communities, and it's called Space Teams Academy. The actual program itself is called Spacecraft, but when we run it outside of the Global Space Challenge, it's Space Teams Academy. So we most recently did this at University of Western Sydney, the Kingswood campus. Yeah, Kingswood campus. So there's a few campuses. And that was, a few months, no, like three weeks ago. Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. So that was fantastic. We had a class full of students. They had a fantastic time. I think one of the great things about running these at the universities is, again, the universities, the students there are sponsored either through us or through the universities, so they don't have to pay for it. They get access to this program and get to experience it. But then also they get to experience the university itself. The universities get to kind of show off their campus to prospective students and also the parents who are, maybe going to pay for some of these students. But then also they get their faculty to come and talk to the students, talk about what they're domestically studying, either at this campus or at another campus, their area of research, why it's important to them, why they're passionate about it. And the students get to hear from, again, those real life researchers and create that emotional connection to the science itself. Because although we do lessons during the whole week and during the program, hearing from real people is, I think, a very important aspect to this. And as much as possible, getting them to physically be there, just a kind of a name on a screen or like an image on the screen, not to say that that's bad necessarily, is I think creates that or fosters a more kind of substantial connection to what they're learning. We had some great speakers at Western Sydney. Dr. Sasha Alexander. We had Todd Barber out of the US, out of NASA JPL, who ran the Cassini missions and still is one of the only people in the world who runs and speaks to the Voyager probes. We had a couple other people. Jenna, who else did we have? Their names escape me.
I know Luke Barnes spoke. He was
Luke Barnes, yep,
yeah.
Cosmologist and physicist, very cool. He was one of the great speakers.
Yeah,
and a few more. We had some in quantum. We had some in quantum physics and quantum mechanics, which was fantastic.
And a lot of
but
students
again,
really knew, like they were really asking some hard, like they were talking about like photons of light and moving and this and the vibrations, and I was like, you're like 12 and you understand, like this is incredible. So
it's great to see some of the
away.
students understanding the quantum mechanics more than I do, which is fantastic. Which shows their passion for this. That's why I really like these kinds of programs, because it's not like school where students kind of have to be there. This is a lot of self-selective stuff. So the students are choosing to put themselves in the environment. They're choosing to take that extra step and kind of further their passion. Yeah. Again, we've run this at Western Sydney, RMIT, up and down the East Coast. We want to move it to the West Coast as well. We're be looking at that. We're going to the APRSAF in Perth later this year, talking to some of the universities over there to see if they want to run it there. We've got some good feedback, so probably we'll end up out there at some point. Yep. Anything you want to add, Jenna?
We'll just skip the video. It just shows some of the.
Show a little bit of the video. It's really cool.
Dreaming of life in the stars, RMIT's Space Industry Hub is giving high schoolers a taste of their dream career with the RMIT Space Teams Academy. Guided by ex-NASA astronaut and program director Dr. Gregory Chamitov, young space adventurers form teams to take part and compete in a virtual space mission.
The RMIT Space Industry Hub is proud to be working with One Giant Leap Australia to host a group of young enthusiastic students where they get the chance to design a spacecraft, they get to learn about planetary science. While this program is focused on space engineering and space science, it really is an excellent way of introducing young kids to the wonders of STEM.
My favorite part about the Space Team Academy is to be here at a university, having access to meet up with astronauts and people who work on real space missions, to be surrounded by many like-minded peers, and to also use this amazing software, spacecraft, to put our imaginations into reality.
All right. I think that's the video. Sorry if it was a little bit staggered for anybody, but I hope the audio came through okay. So yeah, that was RMIT last year. Yeah, we're to be doing RMIT again next year, because this year was just too busy for us. We had to ask them to move it to next year. But yeah, we really enjoyed that program. Okay, and I'm trying to be cognizant of time. I hope I'm not taking too long.
No problems with the time. You're fine.
Okay, move on to the next slide. Oh yeah, so this is just some of the feedback we get. Whenever we do a program, we obviously have a kind of an exit survey form that we like students to do, and we'll also send a feedback form to the parents to try to get as many kind of metric points as possible about what students liked about programs, what they didn't like, how we can improve upon it, what really resonated with them, things that they're carrying away from the programs. Because at the end of the day, we want this to be, again, something that the students can digest easily, and that is kind of stoking and nurturing that passion and that kind of like curiosity, that drive for science and STEM. So yeah, I really like I won't necessarily read off any of these because I don't think I would do them justice. If you want to pause or read them at some point. But moving on. So moving into some of the more serious programs, I guess you'd say. So Aerospace Academy, or our Space for a Day programs, are 1 to 2 day programs that we run during holiday times, even during school times. We run them with community groups. We run them with schools who might pay for them separately, and whether they're funded by the government or whether they're funded through the schools or community groups themselves. Again, we're trying to keep this as low to zero cost as possible for students. So Academy specifically was a 2 day program that we run. Space Day and Aviation Day, so kind of focusing more on space, aerospace, cosmology side, and then more kind of engineering, aviation, aeronautics on the other side. Students learn about, I think so last year in the program, we had 12 to 1,400 students participate all over New South Wales. We had a focus on regional areas. We don't just work in regional areas, we work in city and urban areas as well. But this specifically was a big focus for us. We wanted to bring in as many regional students into this space as possible, because again, we don't want money to be an issue, but we also don't want where you live to be an issue. And so we have a big trailer, and we pack that up full of our supplies. And every school holidays, we would go to three different locations and take in as many students as possible. Yeah, so each day kind of, again, had their different focus. Both had elements of virtual reality, using virtual reality in different ways. It's a great tool to inspire kids and to get them really, involved, whether it's having them kind of like traverse their way through a simulated microgravity environment on the International Space Station, or by simulating them in a light flyer so they can learn the basic mechanics of flight and how to pilot and do all that. Whether it's doing rocketry, basic rocketry, learning about the basic fundamental physics behind rockets, the basic laws that govern our ability to fly, whether it's through an aerofoil or again through the delta V from the rocket exhaust. We try to definitely have a good 50-50 approach to theory and hands-on. So we don't want kids bored out of their minds while they're attending these programs, because otherwise they're going to glaze over and it's going to be in one ear out the other. So making sure we have a good dynamic focus on practical activities is very important to us, because again, it's all about that, creating that connection in their heads, that emotional connection, that tangible physical connection. And especially when they build rockets, it's making sure that it's something that they can take home with them. It's something that they can look at and say, I built this. And when they look at it, they remember the lessons themselves. They remember the things that we went through, whether it's again basically the handheld solar system that we make, or the rockets, or the light balsa wood flyers that we make, or anything like that. And obviously we make sure that they take home some fun prizes and try to make it exciting that way. Every student either gets a bag of goodies, or they can also, if we see that they're taking part and really kind of like Jackie with the Right Stuff Award, kids are really throwing themselves into the activities and putting themselves out there and giving 100%. We reward that, and creates a good positive reinforcement with the students. I tell the students, I never want to punish you for not knowing something. I want to reward you for learning. So if you didn't know something, if you got something wrong, that's fine. Failure is an option. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. But I want to make sure that you then grew from that experience and are taking something extra away from it. And so good positive reinforcement is a great way to do that. And again, that's something we run the academy itself, specifically in in the holidays. But then we have Academy, we can run that during school terms. We have a day program that we run with many schools and community groups, and those are all tailored to what the schools and the teachers want, what they think the students are going to be interested or can handle. So again, that can be anything from basic rocketry to cosmology to fundamentals of physics to little engineering exercises, electronics exercises, kind of basic like learning basic electronic components and how to like wire and solder things, or to program a little robot. We have, again, a very kind of diverse smorgasbord that people can pick and choose from for the programs. Jenna, anything to add to that?
No, we've got a video which I'm happy to like
Yeah, let's play the video. Not sure if any sound is coming through, but sounds like coming through for me. But it's just some very kind of fun music in the back. So we teach them about, this is drones. We go through a whole a lesson on drones, drone safety, drone regulations. We teach kids about those and get them on. This is kids doing VR, kids doing imaginative engineering exercises, basic rocketry, again, a basic kind of physics experiment. Yeah, good old bottle rockets. I really like some of the great designs. Is another type of rocket we do, more of a physical rocket rather than a pressure rocket. There's also a big focus during Academy and during our camp, which we'll talk about next, very much on kind of like soft skills and kind of like meta skills. So a lot of like teamwork, cooperation, communication, leadership skills, being able to write up, because a lot of these things we ask students to write little speeches about what they're doing and present about what they've learned and present about what they've been doing and what they liked and what they didn't like, to kind of like add on to those extra skills. A lot of students now are very, very timid about speaking. I mean, I think all students generally are timid about speaking. I'm still timid about speaking, but teaching these skills at kind of a younger age, kind of getting them used to it, getting them kind of like getting them some experience on knowing how to work together and then how to present together and put themselves out there, I think is really important as well, on top of the other things like their critical thinking, their problem solving, their kind of lateral thinking. Yeah, all very important skills. Okay, and then we'll move to camp next. Oh, and so here's some more feedback. Again, we always look for feedback from the parents and the students. So someone just pick one random, third one down. It's so much fun. Couldn't stop talking about it, showing us what they'd done. I was relieved that they had so much fun, excitement. And they found a new interest out of it. And that's one of the most important things as well. Is even though there's self-selection for students who are already interested, there's a lot of students who are on that, again, that periphery of like, maybe I might be interested, but I'm not sure. And so this is, again, something, a good taster for them that they can kind of like sample, and then hopefully in our minds it kind of like blossoms into something kind of more rich and more full. And we like to nurture those experiences. So we actually have students who might start in one of our other programs, whether it's a space or like an Aerospace Academy or Space for a Day or something like that, who might actually then go, no, I want more of this and to do more at school, but then also come to one of our other programs, like our Aerospace Camp. And Aerospace Camp is a more intensive kind of experience. It's a 4-day experience, full on for the kids. So whereas Academy that would start at, or even Space for a Day starts at 9 and goes till 3:30, this is an all-day experience. So we've got groups of 32 students at any given camp, and it's full on days. They're like they're sleeping over at whatever accommodation that we're at. So our latest one, we just had in Inverell last month, I think, or the month before. It was 5 weeks ago. And the next one, actually, we're leaving for this Saturday, which is going to be in Kuma, kind of Monaro Jindabyne area. And that's going to be fantastic as well. So we have students, again, kind of like regional focused students, but just students from that area coming to us. We'll usually rent out a motel or a place like that, and we get all the students there. And then we have a venue, whether it's at a club or some other space that's appropriate for us. And the students are there, like sunrise to sunset. I'm talking like getting them up at 7 a.m., breakfast at 7:30, and like we are like wheels are down and we're off by like 8:30. And then the kids are going to like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, if they're lucky, if they get everything finished on time. So it's a really intense experience for the students. I always ask the students at the beginning of each camp, like, who signed up to get, a few days out of school, right? Usually half of them raise their hand. I'm like, boy, are you in for a rough awakening, because we're actually packing about 8 days of school into 4 days. So yeah, a lot of students get a little worried look on their face, but that worried look really disappears quickly. By the end of camp, they don't want camp to end. That is the consensus. That is the overwhelming consensus that we've gotten out of these students, because again, they're self-selecting to be there. They have to get a letter of recommendation from their parents, their principal, like their school, and also they have to submit a video application to us, like telling us why they want to be here. And we're usually overwhelmed with applications. This is a very, very I'm super pleased how well received it's been in the regional communities, especially for this last camp. We were essentially doubled up. We had knocked back about half the students that had applied to get down to our 32. So the students were there, and it's tough to make those decisions. It's really tough. I look at the videos, I watch them with Jenna and Jackie and the rest of the team, and we all make our short lists of like, who we're not sure about. But it's tough because honestly, 95% of the students, you're like, I just wish I could have them all here. But again, this is an intense experience. The kids are doing some of the similar things. There's some crossover between Space for a Day or Aerospace Academy. The kids are doing, they're working on the spacecraft simulation programming. They're learning about cosmology and orbital mechanics. They're learning about rocketry, history, construction, fabrication. They're learning about the industry itself. There's a big talk. We talk about ethics of space. We talk about new frontiers in terms of new job opportunities. We talk about again, aerospace and drones, and like what things look at, like what cutting edge technology that we create for space that comes back down to Earth and we use on Earth, and how those things affect us. So there's a big mix between the actual hard STEM of it, and again, bringing those humanities into STEM as well, because a student there might be interested in space and cosmology, but might really be interested in like what are the ethics of mining on the moon? Who owns the moon? What is that? How are we going to delineate who gets access to these certain things? What body is going to do this? Jenna and I have talked to people who are literally writing their own degree programs at universities for space law, and we get to talk to these people and then communicate what they're learning back to the students in a really cool wing. And actually we get to then take questions from the students and then give them to these people as well, to create this cyclical thing about everyone's kind of talking to each other, which is a really cool environment. But yeah, this is something that we run. We try to make as low cost for the students themselves. So we really run this through either grants or sponsorships with communities, private institutions, or private companies, to really just, again, make this as accessible for students as possible. We really don't ever want to leave these students with a bill at the end of the day. Oh, I'm glad you had a good time. Now here's a bill for $2,000. That's no fun. And that's not what this should be about. This really is, and again, the thing that really got me into this was making sure that this was an equitable experience for all the kids, no matter their backgrounds. Jenna, is there anything you want to add to that?
I might put the video on, but again, the student testimonials are great. I'll play the video because it's fantastic. Hopefully the audio will work this time. We'll see.
We'll see.
Change my settings so it might work.
Yep, I think so.
Well, listen, Eric, so this was at Mudgee. There's a little bit of audio coming
It
through.
feels really good to have the opportunities to do this within New South Wales. We have been doing Zoom calls with specialists and former astronauts, and it's so amazing. So, my roommate Abby, when I met her, she was really nice and sweet, and we're in the same team too. So we've become friends while being at space camp.
I feel like this would just like open a lot of doors for me. Like, so just I've seen people and they just like share their stories, and it's just like it feels like it gives me confidence just to keep trying to just do what I want to do.
I'm really looking forward to when we launch the rockets, which I think is either today or tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Now it looks like we're not going to get the actual a good kind of view of the rocket launch with this. But all these videos are also on our YouTube page. One Giant Leap Australia Foundation has a YouTube channel where we post videos from all the camps that we've done. We make a little video for each camp, a little showcase of all the kids. Also, so all the parents can see what the kids have been doing, which is really important. But we culminate kind of in our major rocket launch, which is our actual like black powder chemical engine rockets. So we move from our basic kinetic motor engines to our potential energy bottle rockets to our black powder chemical engine rockets. Yeah, you also saw the students there. So this is a big kind of, this is at the graduation ceremony. Some of the students did an extra thank you to the staff, which is very, well, I always get surprised. It's happened so often now where I probably shouldn't be surprised that the students have a secret speech that they give, but every time it happens, I'm always taken off guard. But that was a very good camp at Mudgee. You also saw them doing some drawings there. As one of our initial team building exercises, we have students start to design a mission patch for their teams. So it helps break the ice with the students, but it also is something that evolves with them throughout the camp experience as well. The first drafts that we get is, very rarely anything to do with the final one that we get, because it's a reflection of how they've grown as a team, what they've done during camp. And it's always, each one is always so special and unique. And then they get to have like pictures of that, and they get to take those home with them, which is really, really cool. So again, just another kind of like soft skills team building exercise that's included, along with everything else. And some of the feedback we have here. Yeah, we had some really great student feedback and some fantastic, one of the parents of one of the students, he was about a 6'5" farmer out of Mudgee. And he came up to Jackie and took her hand, tears coming down his face, and he was like, this is not the boy that I left with you. He's completely different. Like he kind of came into this nervous, but also, not able to look forward to anything. And after the experience, he was so bright and enthusiastic, and he was talking about this for days on end afterwards. And actually, we had his younger brother came to another camp that we did out in West Wylong, and so it was a great again having that good experience that gets passed on either through the siblings or through generations. We've had some of our older student ambassadors that have been with One Giant Leap from the early days of Space Camp USA, coming back, bringing their younger students, their younger siblings, talking to the kids as well, helping us on the camps as well, and kind of like, again, paying that forward, creating this really good kind of nurturing community with the students, where the students help the next generation of students, which I think is very important. Okay, we'll move on. I think we're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, there's so many, I love all the programs, but camp has a really special place in my heart. There's so many, there's so many students, so many stories, so many people, and you really get to know the students as well after those 4 days. And it's frustrating when you're in Broken Hill and you're like, oh, you would be really good friends with this girl from Mudgee and this guy from this place and this, and it's like, oh, all the students are like, could we have like a space camp, like an aerospace camp too? And it's like mega camp, and you have like everyone, and I was like, that'd be fantastic. So but like all the students are so like, they're so grateful, and again, they're self-selected, so they're just really happy to be there. And that's
with peers who have those same interests. And we get so many students coming away from it. We hear from the parents months later, like some parents, I think someone just contacted us a few weeks ago from an early camp we did in Scone, and their their child and another child who didn't know each other before camp and met at camp have become like best friends because of the experience. And so many of the students walk away from camp making these amazing connections and relationships with the fellow students around them, that, these are the experiences. Again, it's not like school where you're forced to be there. This is something that every kid has signed up for, and they're putting themselves out there, and it's geared towards this end result of these really strong relationships that they make, which will travel with them through life. Anyway, have some great experiences. I mean, we've seen like shooting stars at camp. We've seen amazing amazing views of Saturn and the moon when we do stargazing. We had a fun experience where a cockroach got into one of the campers' fire alarms and set that off in the middle of the night. So yeah, camp always keeps us on our toes, but it's again, at the end of every camp, everyone is just super enthused and just wants more. And I think that's kind of like the best testament to a good program, is if the students are disappointed that it's ending and they want to continue it because they just want more of that experience. It's feeding something in them that they're not getting otherwise. Okay, we'll move on. And so this is a kind of future. So we have other future programs that we're running. Connecting Minds is something that we ran at the Dubai Expo a couple of years ago, which is fantastic. Connecting schools from Australia and United Arab Emirates. Them choosing their own area of study, kind of something to do with the space industry, humanities, something that we have to overcome a problem, whether it's engineering or it might be ethical, or it might be a nutritional, or whatever they choose. And they work together to create novel solutions, purport on those solutions. And during that process, they get to actually talk to industry experts, whether they be researchers or students studying these things, people in the know, in the industry, in the academic field, who then get to receive their ideas and give them real-time feedback on the ideas. And so we're reigniting this with Osaka Expo 2025 in mind. And we're going to be, again, connecting Australian students with students in Japan. And again, getting them to again, choose their own kind of area of focus, whether it's like, I think one of the classes in Japan are like, we really want to do, it was an engineering focus on transport on a lunar colony, like the best way to move like people or things around on a lunar colony. And so like, we're going to put them in contact with a school in Australia who's going to meet up with them, but like hearing all these cool ideas from all these students from not just Australia, but also from Japan will be great. And then the end goal is to get the students either remotely or hopefully in person to present at the Osaka Expo, at the Australian Pavilion, or maybe even at the Japanese Pavilion. We're in talks with the embassy, the Australian embassy in Japan currently, and we'll be working with them to try to make sure there's time slotted for us where we can present this. But yeah, just one of the things we're working on. It's not fully done, but that's in the background. And then we have another program with JAXA that we're also running that Jen and I are helping develop, which we'll make an announcement about that at APR SAF in Perth later. But that's going to be another kind of international cooperation experiment with a focus on probably a focus on a biological aspect in microgravity. So I don't want to give too many details away about that, but that'll be a really cool, interesting experiment as well. Yeah, Jenna, anything else you want to add?
This is
the space cruise.
I'll just go to our last slide just so you've got the information and things like that. Because I just got a message about things about IAC and that kind of stuff. We are there are a few things in the works, but because they're based around grants, it's kind of a like Schrodinger's cat deal. It's kind of there, but it's not. We're waiting funding wise to kind of officially
it both exists and doesn't exist until we know funding.
But the one kind of guaranteed thing is we are organizing a space cruise for after IAC, and that'll go to Tangalooma Island. And it's for adults, but it's also for kids as well. So if people want to bring families or like grandkids or anything like that, everyone is welcome. We want to have like panels, we want to have some interesting talks, but then also kind of the R&R of the cruise as well. So if you like want to watch a panel and you want to go get a massage, you can do that. So that's our main kind of plan for IAC, but there are other smaller things during IAC that we can't confirm or deny just yet, mostly because of funding. We want to make sure that we can provide something and we're not going to put a huge price tag on it. We want to try and keep it as low cost as possible before kind of releasing it out into the world, if that makes sense.
I know there's a video for the space cruise that our media professional made.
It's on our YouTube, I think.
It's on our YouTube channel, but it's actually very nice. He's got a fantastic voice. Yeah, he actually used to be an MC on a cruise ship, so that's kind of fun. So I think we'll get him in a nice kind of space themed tuxedo, and he can be the MC during the cruise. With that said, just basic information. Just contact us at info@onegiantleapaustralia.com. You can check us out. We've got podcasts. We've got our YouTube channel. All the information about current programming is up there. Some of it is, again, in the process of being updated because of certain programs are being updated, like Kibo, Asia Tri-Zero G, Connecting Minds. Those are in the process of being updated. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, just feel free to reach out. We like working with whoever wants to work with us, honestly. Anyone who kind of shares our passion, our goal for stimulating students, because we really do need as many students as possible involved in space, STEM, engineering. I've been to so many government and industry panels now, so many meetings, and whether in Canberra or Parliament House or whatever, that talk about how they want this industry to grow. And they expect it to be, an order of magnitude bigger than what it is, in 20 years. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, I mean, you don't have the people to fill these roles now. How are you going to fill 10 times that amount, in 20 years when there's not a lot of investment happening? So a lot of what we're trying to do is kind of stimulate the grassroots of the pipeline that leads into tertiary education, into industry, into these fields, getting as many kids from as many backgrounds, passionate and driven and curious about science. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm with One Giant Leap. Again, it's because I believe in what they're doing. I think it's really, really awesome. Yeah, Jenna, anything you want to add?
No. I think that's all. I think I do believe that was certainly a smorgasbord of different things. Again, it goes back to
kind of charcuterie of STEM and science.
yeah. But the main thing is we would love to chat. That at the end of the day, we want to reach out to as many people as possible and give some really good experiences to students. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you for letting us present.
No, thank you very
Thank you
much.
for listening.
Very informative telling us about these things. I can imagine that these kids would really enjoy some of the stuff, particularly since you're catering to rural kids, which don't always have the opportunities that other people do, which is really good. Might quickly go through the chat that's been coming up, because you've been doing a really good job of answering. I just want to make sure that we cover all this thing. And your questions on the Kibo challenge, was that answered? Okay, I'll just go through the people asking questions.
Is that last year's?
Yeah,
scenario?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Jenna's got an answer there. I can actually read it, her answer, or maybe Jenna will read it out. Just to make, because we are recording this, so it might actually help anybody else who's listening to the questions here, rather than just us doing that. So the answer is the students had to program the robot to find specific objects floating around the ISS, e.g. pencils. How many are in the vicinity? Okay. Scott's asked a question on the Kibo programming. What types of tasks have been programmed in the past for the robot, and what language is used? Can the learnt programming skills be used for broader applications in a paid job? Yes, okay. Yeah, the coding language is Java. Okay, Java, which is not a trivial language. It's certainly got
Body to it.
and also it's a lot of people. It's a potential, thing for people to work in the workforce. It's a robust language that people have demand for doing. Anybody wants to learn Java skills at that age might have a job in IT later on when they get a bit older. So it's got definite application for it. The airlock one was a previous year, but can't recall. Yeah, the last been running for a few years, so obviously it changes all the time, which is using JavaScript. Yep, front end website. That's exactly right. JavaScript is used a lot, so anybody who learns those types of skills at that age group has got a potential job as a website developer later on as well.
I read a program out of Canberra last week. No, yes, last week. Talking to one of the students, we were doing one of our Space for a Day programs at Jerabambara. I think that was the community, and one of the students there was we were talking, and he was like, I really want to do cybersecurity and work in computer engineering, and so we had a great discussion about that. And it's really great, again, how space and science kind of it's an umbrella which brings all these different disciplines and all these different passions together, kind of all working towards their individual goals, but then they all converge to kind of push humanity forward. I think is very, very cool, because he was talking about cybersecurity, like on a off-world colony. Like, how are we gonna make sure these systems are secure, that people aren't hacking, people aren't, putting people's lives in danger. Well, really, really, an amazing ethical thought process behind that.
Well, all the things that you're talking about there is relevant to not only space, but also the current situation we've got now in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is important for everybody to understand it too. Just an observation about Greg Chamitoff too. Greg Chamitoff is going to always have a soft spot for Australia, because he actually was working as a applicant over at the university for a couple of years.
Sydney. Yeah.
I know that
he actually has I think he has a chair at Sydney. He's a distinguished professor there, I believe. He has one of the highest awards, I think.
So he actually, wife's the doctor, I believe. She was actually working with and I think at the time, I think I remember talking to him once when he came out to do a talk. So he's always has a soft spot for Australia. So great, asking him to do something for us would probably always work with that in terms of his time. So that's just one thing about it. John's got a question on version control difficulties experienced by the school software developer. I don't know whether that was okay, yeah, help desk email system, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I can kind of explain that a bit more because it sounds a bit tricky. So with the Global Space Challenge, what'll happen is if there's like a student having issues with like let's say they're building something and something's clipping through and it's not working, they can submit a ticket. And that goes to the like ground control desk in Texas, and they'll look at it and they'll look at that username where they are and kind of work backwards, go, okay, like where are they coming in from? Is it a software issue? Is it a hardware issue? That kind of thing. And then give them feedback based on that. But when we're doing an individual program, so like the Western Sydney or the RMIT one, we have them on WhatsApp and we'll go username XYZ is having issues with this. And then they'll just give us a thumbs up, like they're looking at it. I usually leave my phone next to the student. I go, when you say it's fixed, log back in. And so they just kind of like wait around, they look at my phone, they're like, oh, okay. So like a couple minutes pass and they can log back in and things like that. So a lot of the students are very grateful because I'm like, you don't always have this instant, like this will be fixed very quickly. Like they're very lucky to have the developers write, like online at exactly the same time so they can fix everything instantly. But we're just really lucky to be able to run this program for the students to, minimize that like waiting around trying to get things fixed. So then they can have more time having fun and playing around and building big spacecrafts with like too many engines. But that's the fun of it, they get to learn. That's what's important.
Oh, it's just briefly, yeah, it was the Lawrence Hargrave Chair of Astronautical Engineering. That's Greg received that title.
Right, that's good. And also I asked a question about the age group. So basically you're looking at students between the ages of 11 to 15. It's looking like the target group you've got an interest for it. I suppose that also makes sense based on what it tends to happen with the later years too. Sometimes they don't have enough time to do some of those things when they get a bit older, like 16, 17. So that's probably the age group to pick.
Just quickly on the age group, it's also, we're happy to do like to work with students that are like a little bit younger. The main thing is as long
we've
as they
gone
keep
into primary
their-
school, like we've done primary school aged kids. Yeah.
But it's mainly early first 4 years of high school, I think, is probably the best way of putting it, because the last two were always a bit harder in terms of their commitment for other stuff, which is, yeah.
There's also kind of a little neurobiology behind it. Students of that age have a higher neuroelasticity. So it's actually a little easier to kind of incept kind of an interest in a subject and then also to nurture that. Anyone who has older children knows that it's very hard to tell a 17-year-old to do anything or to be interested in something, new that they weren't interested in. Whereas it's kind of like attract their interest while they're young, like get them interested earlier on. It's much easier to then nurture that as they grow older.
Yeah, I'd say Jackie and I both have a soft spot for the sort of 10, 11, 12-year-olds because of our being primary school teachers. They're the ones that they're still enthusiastic. They're not jaded.
Yeah, I find that with
puberty hasn't quite hit them that hard yet.
Yeah, year sevens are good. They're like they're scared of the big high school, and I'm like, no, it's okay, I've got you. But it's that age group.
Yeah, I think year 7 would be, but also I noticed with the when you're running the academies, they're basically in the school term breaks, which looking at the timings of all of them, that's how they run basically in between terms. That's correct, isn't it? I think I've understood
for the main academy programs, but again, we've done like a different version of academy that's dependent on like a school or community group. We've run it with community centers who run it during school terms, in which case, again, students need to, get permission to go. And we get students to fill those up, or we'll do it again on a weekend, or we'll come into the school to run it for some of the students. We've done that for a variety of schools, or like even again at primary schools, it'd be like, half of, or the whole like year 4 cohort gets to do a space for a day program, and we run them through a bunch of different exercises. And then of course all the other students who don't get to do it get really jealous, and because they see the students playing with their rockets during lunchtime, and they want to do it too.
Yeah, Scott's made an important. Yeah, this program is really important and valuable for these kids. You have shown us examples of how minds have been opened and enthusiasm sparked. Do you have any programs and resources to maintain this interest? Yes, I think that's the Kibo Asian Tri-Zero G programs are free for all the students. That's right. And there's no financial barrier, which is great. Yeah, actually, my mother's family comes from the country. I must admit, looking at what you've been able to do for the rural kids, it would have been very limiting thinking about what would have happened about 40 years ago as to what type of vocations these people would have. So being able to go and talk to them would change potentially their ideas on what they wanted to do when they get older.
And wherever we can, because you're very right, wherever we can, whether it's a camp or different program, we try to get someone, from the community to talk to the kids. We were in, Moree, last year, and we actually got someone who was born and grew up in Moree to come back, and he grew up to be an engineer for Qantas and Boeing and a few other people, and one of the good ones. He's retired now. So the Boeing issues have nothing to do with him, I swear. But he came back to talk to the kids. And they didn't know where he was from at first. They didn't know who this guy was. But he came and did a little slideshow, and suddenly he's doing a slideshow of, him as a young child. And one of the students is like, I know that school. That's my school. And so there's like, the big reveal is like, he's from, he's from the area. Again, wherever we can, we try to get either, indigenous leaders to talk to kids, to get people who grew up in these communities to talk to the kids, whether it's in person, that's preferable, but even if it's on Zoom or something like that, to, again, always creating that emotional connection with the science, with the education itself, to kind of give them that idea of it's possible for them. It's not just some pipe dream of like, they say this, but I live in a country town, I can't do that. It's like, no, you can leave your country town, but also you don't have to leave your country town. There's so much, especially post-pandemic, remote work is in vogue way more than it ever was. And we talk to students, tell them about people we know in industry who literally work from home, who pilot satellites that are orbiting the moon from their caravan, from the laundry of their caravan, because it's their best internet connection. And they don't have to, live somewhere they don't want to. We have someone who's working with us at our camps who works for Greg out of Texas A&M, but he's living right now in Australia because he can work remotely. He doesn't need to be tied down to a desk. Yep.
That's where Chris comes from originally. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really great bringing these people from these communities back to them. Again, that idea of paying it forward, this cycle of the older generations, pulling up the younger generations with them. Yeah. And making it real for the kids.
That's excellent. Okay, so one thing I was going to further add before everyone says thank you is if you ever want to advertise anything you're doing, please send me an email. I've got a list of 700 people for mailing, so I'm always happy to advertise anything you're doing. Okay, so I think it's really important.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
So, anybody else want to say anything before I ask everybody to say thank you to our speakers? Okay, well, I'd like to say thank you very much for coming. I'm really enthusiastic about what you folks are doing as well, so I'm glad you came to tell us.
No, again, thank you for having us. It's always great to get on whatever platform we can have to kind of like talk about this, because it really, it's the future. It's our future that we're trying to work with and to get going. So again, thank you, and I hope I didn't bore you too much.
No, you didn't.
Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you so much. It goes back to the again, I think of the students that I had at my school, and the school was, it's not, I'm not going to say the name of the school, but it wasn't a public, like a private school or anything. But the students were quite, their biggest stress was they got a B instead of an A on their maths test. And I'm like, I think they'll be okay. Because there'll be other teachers that can come and go, but some programs like this, there's some students, especially in regional areas, that really need support, and that can come through STEM, emotionally, and and even like if they really like just one area of it, I'm happy they at least did that. or if they had massive stage fright, but they still got up and spoke. That's really important, and not to downplay, you know, things that they learned. So I don't know, we've got our last camp. Our last camp is coming up, like James said, in down near Jindabyne. And it's quite bittersweet because I'm you know, packing things. I'm like, oh, this is the last certificates. Oh, these are the last rovers. All these
last camp for this grant round.
For
Will
now.
be the next grant round.
Yeah, but we really want to run more of these camps and have students from those camps help with the new camp, and
Which
give
we've had students
opportunity.
from our camps come and help with other camps.
Yeah,
Again,
so we just
building
wanna build
leadership.
yeah, we want to build a community of students that just support each other, and they're kind of like a nerd herd, like everyone's like really into space. So yeah, so thank you so much for listening, and don't be a stranger. You've got our contact info as well.
Oh, I've got that, so don't worry. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Yes.
I'll let you know when I've got the recording up on the website too. Probably take me a couple of days to get it up.